A first alert update, a judge set just one trial date for both the mother of 3-year-old Elijah Vue and her boyfriend in the little boy's death. Prosecutors say Katrina Bauer sent her son to live with her boyfriend, Jesse Vang, at his Two Rivers apartment for disciplinary reasons. Vang reported Elijah missing in February of 2024. Months later, human remains found near Camp Manitou were identified as Elijah. Bauer charged with chronic neglect of a child where the consequence is death, and Vang accused of physical abuse of a child causing death, as well as hiding a corpse. According to court records, both Vang and Bauer will go on trial on April 14th of next year.